There was a boy named Yosef, and he was sitting and learning, and on Friday night when he left shul, he came by to say hello to his mother. And he walked in, the candles were lit, but the seat at the head of the table was empty because his father had died 2 years before. So he walked in with his brothers, Shabta Tova, Omar Habanim, to their mother. Good Shabbos. And when she looked up, she was sitting at the table, she tried to hide her tears because she was crying. Omar Yosef, her son Yosef, said to her, Mommy, it's enough. Today is Shabbos Kodesh. You're not allowed to be in pain on Shabbos. So she turned to her son and she said, that's true, but 2 years ago exactly tonight is when your father left the world, and I am so lonely and I am so alone. I cannot stop crying. So Yosef said to his mother, I understand tonight's the yard site. I understand why you're crying tonight, but you cried last Shabbos, and you cried the Shabbos before that. So it's not about the yard site. And why are you crying? Abba began Eden. Abba is in Gan Eden. This is the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what Hashem wanted. Are you saying that you do not agree with the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Of course, he said this with great honor. So she tried to stop crying. She said, Tzedek, Oischa Yosef, my son, you are right. I am trying not to cry, but I am broken. He said, Ima, anu roitzim lirot otcha smecha tamid. Your children want to see you happy all the time. Gam ani rotze Omar ha'ima. I also want to be happy. So Yosef, he was married. He blessed his mother. He said, Good Shabbos. His brother came home. He made Kiddush. And as the kids were singing Zamira, she began to feel a little bit better. Anyway, as she's sitting at the table, she remembered that week somebody had read her a shidduch. Her husband had died 2 years before. Somebody had read her a shidduch. And when she remembered that somebody read her a shidduch, she began to cry again. So listen to what happened. She went to sleep, and she had a dream. And in this dream, there were people and they were running. There were a lot of people running, and she was running with them. And she came to a forest, and it was very pitch dark in the forest. And all of a sudden, she came to a room that was all lit up. And when she walked into this room, she saw that the sun was out. It was very, very bright. And in front of her was a gan gadol, a huge garden, full of prachim yafim unahadarim, beautiful, beautiful flowers. I'm sure plenty of roses. And there was a beautiful brook. There was beautiful water. Upitom, and all of a sudden, Ra'asal lefanei Yehudi bal zaken. She saw an old man that was standing there. And he was wearing a long robe of white. By the way, whatever Rav Chaim Vital writes, this is the way it is. And the man came over to this woman, the mother of Yosef, and he said, would you like to see your husband? She said, of course. I would love to see my husband. So she followed him, very, very scared. And she came to a tree, a huge tree, Malay Peris Yafim Mugadolim, a tree full of beautiful fruits. And she saw a room from far away. Actually, not a room, a migarash. And there were beautiful, like fences around it. And she saw there were men that were sitting there in beautiful clothing, and they were learning. And in the middle of all these men was a young man, and he was giving a shir. So the old man said to her, who was Elionavi actually, he said, soon the shir will be over, and you'll see your husband. The shir was over, and the man that was giving the shir came over to the tree. Pitom hikira Rachel es habeged elyon shel bala, whatever that means. She recognized his clothing. and she fainted. And she fell on the tree, and the old man woke her up, and she turned to her husband and she asked him the following: Madua halachta mimeni begil tza'ir? Why did you leave me at such a young age? She was angry at him like he wanted to leave. Why did you leave me at such a young age? He said, De'ilach, I want to tell you that the world that you live in is a world that was created to do tikkunim, to fix people's neshamas. They come here either to finish what they started or to fix their sins. He said, the last time I was in the world before you, I was a very big tzaddik. And I learned Torah my whole life. But because I was learning, I felt that if I get married and I have a wife and I have children, it will disturb my learning. So I lived my whole life till I was an old man as a single person. And I died. And I came up to Gan Eden, and they gave me honor, and they gave me kavod, and I began to move Yeshiva Shalmaila from one level to the next level to the next level. They kept pushing me up, and they kept pushing me up. And then I got to a level, and they said, where are your children? Where's your wife? And I said, I didn't get married. And they said, in the next world, if you didn't get married, you didn't even try, you can't go any further. So they sent me back because I did everything else right. So they sent me back to the world to have children. So I married you, and we had, how many children does he say? I think 9 or 7, hold on. I don't know if he says it over here. Okay, anyway, he says, Lo ritzitza lisa isha, I didn't want, so they sent me back to this world. Yeah, 7. Kishanayla yiladenu hashvi, when we had the 7th child, Karli Lashiv L'Gan Eden, they called me back to Gan Eden, L'Yeshiva Shali, to my yeshiva. Because they were all waiting for me up here. He said, but I want you to know, and listen to this Nashim Tzidkanias that are listening to this shir. This is from Chaim Vital from the other world. Gedayla zechuscha, your zechus, my wife, is greater than mine. Ki yesh li kan shem tov, I have a good name here. Ukashiyava hazman, and when the time comes, nichya shuv b'yachid ba'ayneg, we will live again together in happiness, ba'olam hazeh, in olam haba, in the next world. He said, so I had to come back, I had to get married, I had to have children on my 7th child. They said enough, and they took me back to the next world. She said, okay, I accept that. But I don't understand. Lo yadati sha'ata lamdin gadol. When you were married to me, you weren't no big rabbi. You didn't even have time to learn. You were working the whole time. Omar Bala, her husband said, Gamani lo yadati. Once you come to this world, they erase all your memory. I didn't come to this world the second time to learn. I came to fix what I messed up the first time. I came to have children and to get married. She said, okay, I accept your answer. But our son Yosef, tell me, he has been trying to make a business and everything he touches is falling apart. Why is that happening to our son? He said, Bevadai, surely you remember the din Torah that Yosef had with the other Jew. Yosef was right. And the other Jew was wrong, but when he lost, he was in so much pain. And in Shemayim, they decided to punish our son Yosef in a terrible way. Ani hitati ba'ado, I went to pray for him. Ubikashti shiyitn loy rak arba shanim koshes ba'oskov. I said, don't hurt him, just take away from him 4 years. That whatever he touches should turn to hay. Punish him 4 years, and no matter how he tries to make money, he shouldn't be able, but don't hurt him. He says that my tefillah was accepted, and now, he said to his wife, he only has 1 year left of those 4 years. She said, okay. She said, what about our son David? He's already so old and he doesn't have a shidduch. What's going on? He's 24 years old and he doesn't have a shidduch. So her husband answered, the bas zugoi shel David, the girl that David's supposed to marry, Ichra, I spoke about this once, Ichra levoy la'olam, she came to the world late. She didn't come in the time she was supposed to be here. For whatever reason, she came to the world late. And right now, she's only 13 years old. She came to the world 11 years later than she was supposed to. Hamevin Yavin. But in 5 years from now, she will come to the town that you live. And there will be a chasana. He will marry her. Okay? She's getting all her answers. Her last question. She turned to her husband, and this is the reason I told this story last night to this family. She said, okay, you have an answer for everything. I'm a kabel, but answer me this. Why kara ha'ason, did this terrible tragedy happen libanenu, to our son, Ben Hashalosh, our third son? Hu nareg al yad goy shikar. He was killed by a drunk non-Jew when he was a little boy. Why did that happen? Chayecha ba'ala Omar. Chayecha, your life, said the husband. Boyi acharai, follow me. Listen carefully. This is what I told them. They came to a garden, molei or, full of light. Ubay shesulim eitzim ktanim. There were small trees, porchim mikol tzeddeim, growing from all sides. From the heavens, in that room, were coming all kinds of lights and colors, mamish from the heavens, from Shemayim. Tziparim noise, beautiful birds were hopping from tree to tree. V'hishama as she ras, and she heard the beautiful songs that these birds were singing. What were they singing? Oz eruah latzadik, ul yishrei simcha. L'man yitzemecha kavod v'lo yidom. Zevuvim gedolim, huge flies, mikol atzvam, made of all kinds of colors, maybe butterflies. Afu b'sarech l'toichais neha, came and spoke into her ear, and they said, Shalom, Shalom, peace, peace. L'rachai u'lekarov, to those who are far and those who are close. Tzavam kitanim ratzu be'esev, the grass was made out of many different colors, and it was singing, Va'ani osher oitz charanam abayke chazdecha. Repeat, all of a sudden, she saw shootings of fire in all kinds of different colors. And there, standing across from her, were malachim ketanim, small angels, bali knafayim, with wings. They were standing in front of her and next to her, misaviv, surrounding her. Nishma megina and hadera shakli negina. She heard beautiful music from musical instruments. And she felt that her soul was leaving her. And she began to faint. Her husband took some grass from the garden, and he put it on her forehead. Her spirit came back. She saw a beautiful chuppah, made of beautiful diamonds and jewels, with sparks of all the colors of a rainbow. Underneath the chuppah, there stood an angel in front of her. She recognized the malach was her son. Haharag, that was killed. He began to smile and to laugh in front of her. He is alpha sheinish. She fainted again. He gave her again the grass to smell, and she opened her eyes. And she could not believe that this was her son and no one else. So she asked her son, Madua halachta mimeni begil kokach tzoyer. Why did you leave me as such a little boy? Heishiv la hayeled. So the little boy answered her, Hakol lefi cheshbonai shel borei olam. Everything goes according to the cheshbon of God. I was in the world way before I was born to you. Ima, I was born the last time I was in the world to a very choshev family, in our town. We were attacked by Goyim. They killed everybody. And they kidnapped me. I was a half a year old. And this non-Jewish Goya, woman, took me to her house and brought me up. Until the Jews found out that these Goyim had a Jew, they redeemed me, and they brought me back into the Jewish fold, and I became a huge Gaon, a huge tzaddik. And I lived my whole life benachas. And when I died, I came to the Olam HaEmes, the Simcha. I knew that I would have a good part in Gan Eden. Well, Lisi Mal, I went up and up. Until I came to a place where they said, you can't go up anymore. And I asked them, why? There's many levels above this. And they said, Mikivan, since Shianakti Shana Etzel Isha Nachriya, you nursed from that non-Jewish woman's milk. And a mouth that nursed from a non-Jewish woman's milk cannot go any higher, cannot speak on the high levels of Gan Eden. But it wasn't fair. I was kidnapped. I was a half a year old. So the Bezdin Shalmaila said, we have to help him. Let's send him back down to the world. Let a Jewish mother nurse him. And after the Jewish mother nurses him for the same amount of time that the non-Jewish woman nursed him, he will have a tikkun, and then he can go to the highest level in Gan Eden. And he said the following, I'd like to read it to you inside. That's why I was born to you. And it's a huge schus for you. They took me back after I was 3 years old to my place, because there was nothing, there was no way in this world, in Olam Haba, I could have gone further. And this is the part. This is the most important of my whole night. This mother didn't give up. She said, okay, I hear all these answers. So you had to die. But why being murdered in such a gruesome way? So listen carefully what this little malach, who was her son, answered her. Why in such a terrible way? The mother continued to ask. Her little boy answered her. When I was supposed to leave the world, there was a terrible decree al Yehudi Irenu on all the Jews of our city. They were all supposed to die. Gamat, you also. V'avinu, and my father also. As kivdu oisi, they gave me the honor. She'eyeh kapara ha'ir kula, that I would be the kapara, the forgiveness, the carbon for that city. V'nirtzachti l'manam, I was murdered for them. Uvekach, and through that, hitzalti es ha'ir kula, I saved the whole city. L'chein, and therefore, because I did this, zoiche ani l'chol hakavod hagadol hazeh kan. That is why I am sitting in this unbelievable place in Olam Haba. Not because I learned Torah, because I gave up my life to save a whole city. La'af echad began Eden. There is no other soul in the whole of Gan Eden, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avram Avinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov, ein rishus lirois oisi. Nobody is allowed to ever see me, because he was that holy that nobody could handle looking at him. Rak la'aba, except for Daddy. But Kolzman Shiyirtze, whenever he wants to see me, he could see me, because he went through the pain of losing me. Hayelet Sochak b'ni'imus, he began to smile and to laugh. Hischel l'risrachek, he began to move away. B'ne'elam, and he disappeared. Azamalai Bala, her husband turned to her and he said, Re'isa, my wife, you've seen, Shekol HaKush Yishlcha, to all the questions that you have, Yesh Tirutzim, they are answered. Hein HaBayre Eini Yetzish Shemra, the Creator does not create any bad. El Shuri, I'm sorry, but now I must go back to give my share. He laid her eight. He brought her back to the place of the tree. And then he said to her, Kan tov ma'od, in this world it is very good. But I cannot even in this world handle your pain and your crying. Which means that when a person in this world is in pain, the person in the next world that they're in pain about feels their pain. Tasali Taiva Gedoyla, he says to his wife, do me a big favor. Tatzchili lichos besimcha. Start to live your life in happiness. I know that this week they read you a very good shidduch. Don't push the shidduch away. Bala Nelam, her husband disappeared. By Yehudi Hazaken, near a shuv, and the Eliyahu Navi reappeared and took her through this forest. She woke up. Ki'ila noda mechadash, like she was just born. Zman rab oy shikva shechil al panev imshicha liras es ba'ala mu'usha ubarach amachayech. Evan kavda negulim al liba, a heavy stone was lifted from her heart. He kabbalah tanchumim. Ke'es nisas b'shenis. In a short time later, she got married again. And she lived a happy life.